When humanity invited apex predators to dinner, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting golden light over Earth's first interstellar embassy, a structure built not from ambition alone, but from necessity. Inside, behind its thick titanium walls and reinforced glass, Earth's chief diplomat, Jack Thompson, stood at the window, staring at the sunset like it might be his last. Tonight would change everything. He adjusted his tie, the knot suddenly feeling too tight, as he turned to face his assistant, Mike Carter, a young diplomat barely out of his 20s, yet already carrying the weight of global politics on his shoulders. "Sir, the kitchen staff is panicking," Mike said, holding a tablet with trembling hands. "They're not sure how to prepare food for creatures that prefer their meals still moving." Jack closed his eyes briefly. That problem was just one of many. Their guests, the hunters, were the most feared species in the known galaxy. Towering 3 meters tall, their bodies were covered in thick, armored scales. They had no concept of diplomacy as humanity understood it. To them, life was a test of strength, dominance, and survival. Every species that had encountered them had chosen one of two paths: war or avoidance. Humanity had chosen a third option: an invitation, a dinner. The stakes were higher than ever. Jack turned to the screens on his desk. Every news channel in the world was broadcasting the same story. Madness or brilliance? Earth prepares to dine with death itself. Space wolves on Earth, humanity's most dangerous gamble yet. Is humanity on the menu? Outside the embassy, thousands of protesters held up signs, their faces a mixture of fear, defiance, and disbelief. Some were optimistic, hoping this would be the beginning of a new era of unity. Others weren't convinced. Jack understood their fear. For centuries, the hunters had dominated every species they encountered. If Earth wanted a seat at the table of interstellar politics, they had to prove they weren't prey. This dinner wasn't just diplomacy. It was a test of whether humanity would be seen as equals or food. The challenge of hospitality. Mike hesitated before speaking again. "Sir, the chefs, they're refusing to serve living prey." Jack sighed and rubbed his temples. He had seen footage of hunter dining habits. It was not pleasant. "They agreed to bring their own food," Jack said finally. "We'll focus on how we eat. If we can show them that cooking is a strength rather than a weakness, we might have a chance to shift the balance in our favor." Mike looked relieved, but then his expression darkened. "That's not all. The military just called. They want to position a warship in orbit as a precaution." Jack's jaw tightened. "Absolutely not. The hunters will see it as a challenge, not a precaution." "But sir," Mike. Jack's voice was firm, yet calm. "We're not treating them like an enemy. We're treating them like honored guests. That means no weapons, no defenses, no signs of fear." Mike swallowed hard. "Understood." Jack exhaled and turned back to the window. The sun had vanished now, replaced by the soft artificial glow of Earth's cities. Above them, in the cold abyss of space, something enormous had arrived. They had arrived early. "Sir," Mike said, voice tight, "the hunter's ship just entered the solar system. They're early." Jack's heart skipped a beat. "Good," he said, forcing himself to remain steady. "Tell the staff to finish preparations. And Mike, remove the silverware from the dining table." Mike blinked. "Sir." Jack met his assistant's wide-eyed stare. "The hunters don't use tools when they eat, so tonight, neither will we." Mike hesitated, then nodded slowly. He left the room in a hurry, relaying the command. Jack turned back to his desk, where a wooden spear rested inside a glass case. Humanity had once been apex predators too. Before they built cities, before they crafted weapons of war, they had hunted and survived with nothing but their instincts and cunning. Maybe that was why the hunters had accepted the invitation. Maybe they saw something of themselves in humanity. The first contact meal. Hours later, the embassy kitchen was a war zone of its own. 20 of Earth's finest chefs stood motionless, staring at a hologram playing before them. It showed a hunter feeding on its homeworld. Several chefs turned away, looking sick. Jack clapped his hands once, commanding their attention. "Turn it off." The hologram vanished, but the image remained in their minds. Jack took a deep breath. "I know this isn't what you signed up for. But tonight, we prove that we belong among the stars. We show them that humans are not just prey, not just diplomats, but innovators." Tom, the head chef, stepped forward, wiping sweat from his brow. "Sir, we can't eat what they eat." Jack nodded. "That's why we teach them something new. Prepare 2 versions of every dish, 1 raw for them, 1 cooked for us." Tom thought for a moment. Then, slowly he nodded. "A demonstration. Show them how fire makes food better." "Exactly," Jack said. "They respect strength. Let's show them that humans are strong enough to change the very nature of food itself." Final preparations. As the kitchen staff rushed to prepare, Jack and Mike walked through the embassy's grand dining hall. The chairs had been removed. Hunters preferred to stand while eating. The long wooden table gleamed under the soft glow of hanging lights. Mike hesitated before speaking again. "Sir, there's something else." Jack looked over. The military spotted 2 more hunter ships, hiding behind Mars. Jack's breath hitched. "They're not registered with the diplomatic fleet," Mike continued. "They're watching us." Jack exhaled slowly. "They're testing us. Should we be worried?" "Yes," Jack admitted, "but that doesn't change anything." Mike nodded, though he still looked uneasy. "And one more thing, sir." Jack raised an eyebrow. "The hunters have a tradition. If they offer us their food, we have to accept it." Jack's stomach twisted. "You mean?" Mike nodded. "Yes, sir. If they bring live prey, we have to kill it ourselves." The thought made Jack nauseous, but he kept his face neutral. "Tell security to be ready," he said. "And tell the staff, no matter what happens tonight, we keep our heads high." The arrival. The ground shook as the hunter ship landed in the embassy courtyard. It was enormous, a beast of metal, its jagged edges reflecting the artificial lights of Earth's capital. Steam hissed as the ship's doors began to open. Jack stood at the entrance, straightening his tie as he watched the first hunter step into Earth's air. He had seen pictures before, but nothing could have prepared him for the reality. The alien stood 3 meters tall, its scales shimmering with shifting colors, its eyes dark and predatory. For a long moment, the hunter just stared at him. Jack held its gaze. Then, finally, the hunter nodded and walked inside. Tonight, humanity would face its greatest test, and if they survived, they would never be seen the same way again. A feast of equals. The embassy's grand hall was filled with a silence so deep it could crush bone. Every human in attendance stood frozen, watching as the hunters entered. Jack Thompson, Earth's chief diplomat, kept his breathing steady, his face calm despite the rising tension in the air. He had dealt with world leaders, military generals, and corporate sharks before. But nothing compared to staring down a species that had spent centuries at the top of the galactic food chain. The first hunter to step forward was Maska, the delegation's leader. Standing nearly 10 feet tall, his body was encased in thick, dark red scales, his powerful arms ending in razor-sharp claws that looked capable of tearing through steel. His eyes, slitted, golden, and unnervingly intelligent, swept across the room, scanning everything with the slow, methodical patience of a seasoned predator. Behind him, 6 other hunters entered, each one just as terrifying. Their movements were fluid, controlled, their presence radiating an aura of absolute dominance. Jack could feel the raw tension in the room. The soldiers stationed in the shadows gripped their weapons tighter. The kitchen staff held their breath. Even Mike, his assistant, stood stiff beside him, beads of sweat forming on his forehead. And yet, no one moved. No one spoke. because everyone knew that this moment, this first step, would define whether this dinner would be a success or a disaster. The ritual of the hunt. Maska came to a stop at the head of the long wooden table, his golden eyes locking onto Jack's with an intensity that sent shivers down his spine. Then, without a word, the hunter reached behind him, and from a large metal container he pulled something out. Something alive. A beast, unlike anything seen on Earth, writhed and thrashed in his grip. It was some kind of alien predator. A deep black quadruped with snapping mandibles, and a body covered in jagged spines. It was desperately trying to break free, its claws scraping against the stone floor with a high-pitched screech. Gasps erupted from the human staff. A few took involuntary steps backward. Jack, however, did not move. Maska's head tilted slightly. His slitted eyes gleamed with something unreadable. Then, in a deep, growling voice, the hunter spoke. "Will you share the hunt?" The ultimate test. Mike stiffened beside Jack. The kitchen staff whispered in panic. Even the security guards hidden around the room were tense, waiting for a signal to intervene. Jack had researched hunter culture extensively before this event. He knew exactly what this was. This was not just a meal. This was a ritual, a test of strength and honor. To refuse, an insult beyond comprehension, a declaration of weakness. Jack slowly exhaled. His heart thundered in his chest, but he kept his face calm. Without breaking eye contact, he rolled up his sleeves and took a step forward. "We share the hunt," he said. The entire embassy went silent. Maska watched him for a moment longer. Then, without hesitation, he threw the struggling alien beast onto the table. The hunt had begun. Blood and fire. The creature shrieked, its legs flailing as it scrambled across the polished wooden table, knocking over glasses and plates. Maska and his hunters moved instantly. No hesitation, no delay. Pure, raw instinct. One hunter lunged, claws flashing, only for the creature to dodge, snarling as it bared its venom-dripping fangs. Another hunter moved to intercept, but the beast lashed out, cutting deep into his armored scales. The injured hunter let out a low, rumbling growl, but he didn't flinch. He simply circled again, waiting for another opening. This was not just a slaughter. It was a dance, a battle of patience and precision, honed over thousands of years of evolution. Jack forced himself to move. His mind screamed at him, "Run, get out. This isn't what humans do." But humans had once been hunters too. He grabbed the sharp ceremonial knife placed at the table's edge, feeling its cold metal weight in his hand. One chance. He saw the creature twist, its glowing eyes locking onto him. And then it lunged. Jack dodged at the last second, twisting his body as he brought the knife down, hard, right into the creature's exposed flank. A piercing shriek filled the air. The hunters froze. Then slowly, Maska grinned, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth. A deep chest-rumbling laugh echoed through the embassy. "You are not prey," Maska declared. "You are kin." The feast begins. The tension snapped. Suddenly, the hunters relaxed, their posture shifting from battle readiness to something almost respectful. The dead creature was lifted from the table, its body quickly prepared in the traditional hunter fashion. Raw, fresh, served immediately. Jack, Mike, and the other human representatives were offered the first pieces, another test. But Jack was prepared. He took a piece of the uncooked meat, then gestured for one of the chefs to bring the cooked version forward. A beautifully seared, perfectly seasoned cut, plated with precision. Maska's eyes gleamed with curiosity. Jack gestured toward it. "You shared your way with us," he said. "Now, let us share ours." Maska studied the cooked meat for a long moment. Then, with slow deliberation, he took a bite. The hunters watched him closely. And then, Maska did something no one expected. He let out a deep, rumbling sound. a sound that, according to Jack's research, was the hunter equivalent of a purr. "Your fire makes prey stronger," Maska rumbled, setting the plate down. "Your kind is full of surprises. A new beginning." The rest of the feast went smoothly, or as smoothly as a diplomatic event involving carnivorous apex predators could go. The hunters adapted surprisingly quickly to human dining customs. They found the concept of cooked food fascinating, experimenting with different dishes while still respecting their traditions. By the night's end, Maska stood and addressed the room. "This has been an experience worthy of warriors," he said. "You are not like the others. You do not cower. You do not run. You adapt. You evolve. Asterisk, 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 perhaps in time, we may hunt together again." Jack knew what that meant. This wasn't just an alliance. This was the start of something far greater. And for the first time in galactic history, humanity had earned the respect of the hunters, not as prey, not as diplomats, but as equals, the pact of predators. The embers of the feast still smoldered in the air, the scent of cooked meat mingling with the raw musk of the hunter's traditional prey. The once tense atmosphere had shifted, the initial edge of uncertainty now replaced with something else, something resembling mutual respect. Jack Thompson leaned back slightly, rubbing his thumb across the polished wood of the dining table. Across from him, Maska, the towering leader of the hunter delegation, licked the last remnants of his meal from his razor-sharp teeth. Then, with a slow, deliberate motion, he set his plate down and met Jack's gaze. "You have earned our interest, human." The words sent a ripple through the gathered diplomatic staff. Maska's tone was not one of dismissal, nor condescension. It carried the weight of something else entirely, acknowledgement. Jack didn't immediately respond. He knew better. He had learned something very important about the hunters in the past few hours. They respected silence. They respected patience. They respected those who understood the art of the hunt, whether it was over prey, power, or diplomacy. Finally, he exhaled and folded his hands together. "And you have earned ours." Maska grinned, a slow, predatory, almost approving expression that sent shivers down the spines of the human aides standing behind Jack. "Tell me," Maska said, his deep voice vibrating through the floor, "why did your people invite us? No other species has dared." The hall fell silent. The question that had hung in the air all night had finally been spoken aloud. And now Jack had to answer it. The shadow of war. Jack exhaled slowly, choosing his words with surgical precision. "Because we see an opportunity." That caught Maska's interest. His golden eyes flickered. "An opportunity." Jack nodded. "We know the other species avoid you. They fear you. They whisper about your wars, about your hunts. But we," he gestured to the humans in the room, "we understand something that the others don't." Maska tilted his head, intrigued. "And what is that, human?" Jack leaned forward slightly. "That power respects power." The hunter delegation stilled. One of the younger warriors, Talik, a muscular brute with obsidian black scales, let out a low, growling chuckle. Bold words from a species still caged within its own solar system. Jack didn't flinch. He had expected this reaction. Maybe. But if history has taught us anything, it's that cages don't hold us for long. Maska studied him carefully. Then, slowly, he nodded. A predator that understands its cage is already preparing to break it. Jack's lips twitched into a small, knowing smile. The hunt for an alliance. The conversation shifted. The meal had been the test. Now came the real negotiation. Jack gestured to Mike, who tapped his tablet. A holographic display flickered to life over the table. The image was simple, a galactic map. But what it showed was anything but simple. Trade routes, borders, the vast, unspoken tensions between species. And there, in deep crimson, lay the territory controlled by the hunters, a sprawling interwoven web of hyper-efficient paths that cut through the safest, fastest lanes in the galaxy. These, Jack said, tapping the red-marked lanes, are the hunter-controlled trade routes, the fastest known paths between the core worlds and the resource sectors, the same ones that every other species avoids. Masca nodded. They fear trespassing into our domain. They do not survive long if they do. Jack didn't miss the casual certainty in the hunter's voice. But we aren't here to trespass, he countered. We're here to make an offer. Masca raised an eyebrow ridge. An offer? Jack tapped the map again. A new set of routes appeared, marked in blue. Trade, Jack said. Safe passage. A pact. For the first time that night, the entire hunter delegation exchanged glances. Jack pressed on. Your people control the most efficient paths in the galaxy, but they remain underutilized because the other species avoid them. He paused. But humans, we don't run from danger. We adapt to it. He turned to Masca directly. We propose an agreement. You allow human ships to use your routes under protection. In return, we offer technology, resources, and... He let the word linger. Allies. Masca's expression remained unreadable. Then, after a moment, he let out a low, rumbling growl. It took Jack a second to realize. It was laughter. You wish to make a deal with the apex hunters of the void, Masca said, amusement evident in his tone. You offer us trade. Jack didn't smile, didn't waver. We offer something greater than trade. Masca's laughter stopped. He narrowed his eyes. Jack met them without blinking. We offer a new kind of hunt. A silence fell over the room. The hunter delegation watched Jack with piercing intensity. Then, slowly, Masca leaned forward, resting his massive clawed hands against the table. Explain. A pact forged in blood. Jack inhaled, then tapped the map again. A new set of markings appeared, this time, flashing red across the galaxy's edges. Threat reports. War zones. The machine swarm. Masca's expression darkened. The soulless ones, he growled. They do not know the meaning of the hunt. They only consume. Jack nodded. Exactly. And right now, the other species are too afraid to fight them directly. A slow understanding crept into Masca's gaze. But you are not. Jack's smile was sharp. No, we are not. A heavy pause. Then Masca did something unexpected. He reached for a small curved blade at his hip, the metal glinting under the dim embassy lights. Without a word, he sliced the tip of his clawed finger, letting a single drop of dark, violet blood fall onto the table. The hunter warriors behind him let out low, approving growls. Masca met Jack's gaze one last time. In our culture, a pact is not made with words alone. It is sealed in blood. Jack didn't hesitate. He reached forward, took the same blade, and cut a shallow line across his own palm. A single drop of human blood joined the hunters. The room held its breath. Then Masca's predatory grin returned. So be it, he rumbled. The hunt begins.